Blended Podcasts. Brought to you by Blended Audio.
So, like, that time that we kidnapped her, like, was I supposed to put her in the boot, or... Oh, hi, guys! How's it going? Welcome to the podcast thing. Where are we? Sound Vibes! Welcome to Sound Vibes, everyone! Fantastic! I'm Nate, that guy, and that's Patty. That's Patty McD.
Hey.
I'm so off my game today. I feel like I've been reinvented in the last 20 minutes of my life because this coffee is so amazing. Oh, it's so good. It's so warm and fuzzy. And how are you, sir?
I'm good, man. I'm good. And I'm enjoying, like poor Nate has the pressure to introduce the show every time.
Every single freaking Sound Vibe.
Because he knows I ain't going to do it.
So if you ever open the show one day without me and you'll just be like, so guys, right into the topic.
Yeah, I would.
Where's the introduction?
Yeah.
Like, come on. So, last week we were discussing guitar things with our good friend and guest Robyn Ferguson. Just to give you a quick profile, because I don't think we touched on this last week, but Robyn is a accomplished musician, guitarist, lady person. I believe she's endorsed by Ebenezer, which is wow. You're not supposed to laugh. I'm supposed to introduce you. Why do you do this? Okay,
that's probably her modesty creeping through.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like, this woman kicks ass.
She's like, oh yeah, give me more. She plays in a metal band called Adorned in Ash, although I think her primary focus for the last long while has been her solo stuff, which has been absolutely phenomenal. She has an EP out called Alazarin, and you can find that on all the social medias and streaming services and all that pluggy stuff. And go check it out. Robyn Ferguson on music things and stuff. Sound Vibes. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
I should drink more coffee.
And why have we dragged Robyn kicking and screaming back into the booth this week?
Because you can't fit all of that information into 25 minutes. That's why.
It's too much to talk about.
It is too much to talk about.
No, there's no such thing as too much to talk about.
No, there is.
This is our business, is talking. We need unlimited content.
This is true, actually.
And I think one day, like right here, like I'm getting inspiration. We are going to have an episode about podcasting.
Hey, that's a good idea. Hey guys, welcome to the podcast inside your podcast. Do you like podcasting? We love podcasting. Podcast stuff, things.
All
so
right.
Robyn's back. Yes.
Hi.
So Robyn enlightened us quite a lot last week about like guitar tech.
Yes.
And we've decided, well, we're going to do a mini series because So we covered so much last time on like just the technologies available that like you as a guitarist can employ in your journey for awesome. And we kind of left off talking about virtual instruments, VSTs, plugins, basically. And I think for the aspiring guitarist in this day and age, like doing a little bit of recording at home has become like fundamental. And I mean, we've got all sorts of tools where like actually you don't even need a guitar to write guitar music. Like you've got programs like Guitar Pro and variations of that. But what about the guys who actually want to start moving towards laying down their own tracks? So I'm going to kind of bore you all with where that journey started for me.
Here we go again. Patty McD on his long journey. Here we go.
It had to start somewhere.
Lay it on,
It had to
bro.
start somewhere. But so
There's the non-guitarist in the corner over there.
Poor
Sorry,
Nate.
I'll just sit here in my silence.
So just to get a baseline on the topic, I have to admit, in my band, I was the most reluctant studio participant, starting out. And I realized a few years in that this was to my great detriment, not only as a live performer, but also as a band participant. My ideas could only come to life in the band room. And whilst that's fine and well, like I think it saves a lot of time when you're in the band room, because I mean, that's precious time. And I think the older we all get, the more we realize just how precious that time is. So I realized somewhere along the line, Pat, you need to pull up your socks and you need to be able to formulate your ideas at home in your own time and present them so that the band room time is spent more productively. Because, man, we pay for band room time.
Yeah.
So for me, it started out with a very basic DAW, which you're going to tell everybody what that is shortly.
A door. I don't think anyone uses the acronym anymore. They just call it a door now.
A door.
A door.
Not a door you walk through, though.
No, a door. Like
a DAW.
a dowel. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Dow.
So I acquired a free DAW. All right, let's for all intents and purposes stick with DAW just for the meantime. And I got my multi-effects pedal, which I bought at the time, had a USB connection and doubled as a sound card interface thingamajig.
Yeah.
And that was really cool. So I started just knocking out demos and it was life-changing. So I think with your much more extensive experience in all things studio, we're like, well, we don't want to hear Pat's boring story of how he did the stuff. Let's hear it from someone who's just done more of it. And I believe your background also extends into retail.
Yeah, retail and distribution as well as studio.
Yeah. So you know about a lot of the gear, which maybe not necessarily you've even used, but I'm sure in that environment of work, you have probably used a lot of it as well.
Yeah.
All right.
So, I mean, sure. I think the journey for everyone's been quite interesting. I think now musicians who are getting into studio these days have actually quite an advantage because they're falling straight into it, whereas we had to go on that long journey. I mean, I remember sitting in my bedroom with, and I'm not even that old, but with a tape recorder, like literally a tape recorder. I got one like from someone somewhere, and I try to like half record my ideas. But I think just to touch on like where we're moving towards, I think literally we're having to come up with ideas and such at home, perfect them, and then bring them to the band room, because we are not in that space anymore where the band lives together, tours together, and eats and breathes, and that is
because there's no money.
It's impossible.
That's why.
And I mean, I think old school times you could go and you know your mate would have a place to practice, and you could go and you have all the time in the world, and you sit and you jam, and you know like you see your bandmates after work, and everybody's a big family. It's not really like that anymore. Time is money. And when you're going into your rehearsal space, I know you guys pay for rehearsal time, I pay for rehearsal time. You can't really spend that time working on songs. That you need to know what's going on. So yeah, definitely. I mean, where we are these days is where it's at. So if you're getting into the recording realm of things, there's a lot of options here.
All right, because I think, I mean, what you described about like the old way of doing things, like the bros living together and stuff. I was born in 1980, so I make up for age where maybe like the one or two of you guys fall a little shorter. Opa pet. So what I'd like to just add to that fact though is that there's definitely a mindset shift as well.
Definitely.
I was a reluctant studio participant, because my mindset was more towards that like old way of doing things. It's like I didn't want to record by myself because I was like, why would anyone want to do that?
It's old school. You need a giant amp that's going to break your back. Doesn't matter if it sounds good or not. It needs to be huge. And then you need to get together and like record all together, family vibes. And it's just not where it is anymore.
But these days, like I've become very aware, just working in media as I do, how many bands exist that we can justifiably call an internet band. And then these internet bands evolve into something bigger and more, eventually playing live shows. But it all started off with some guys sitting in their bedroom, or girls sitting in their bedrooms, just knocking out cool ideas and capturing them. So I think what we'd like to really delve into today is let's assume we have listeners who are complete laymen, they just haven't started this journey yet. They've been thinking about it. They've probably already watched a few like videos and whatnot. But what I find about using YouTube is oftentimes it's like, you can learn anything you want, provided you ask the right question.
Questions. Yes.
So I'd like to start with complete basics, where we're asking the right questions today.
I never ask the right questions. I'm always asking, like, people look at me like, what do you mean? Like, that doesn't make any sense. I'm like, just tell me how to do the things, please.
Yeah.
Just put the things on the table, and how do the things work?
Yeah. So here we're going to give these things names.
Yeah.
So, Robs, please start us out with the complete layman. It's like, all right, I want to record. I do happen to have a computer. What do I need to
and
put
my
on
guitar.
it?
How do I make this work?
Yeah. Now, with computer, can we get something that we can use for free?
Absolutely. So there's so many options. I mean, for all budgets. That's the wonderful thing about where we are in the world today with technology. If you have no money, or if you've got millions of rands, millions, all of the monies, you can do so much these days. So DAWs, digital audio workstations.
DAWs.
Now I finally know what a DAW actually stands for.
Yeah, everyone's like, oh my gosh, I use a DAW. I'm like, yeah, I walk through them all the time. So digital. Do-do. I mean, you get all kinds of software, recording softwares of various levels and scales and shapes and forms. You get free options in terms of, you could look at your basics, and a lot of people start off on these free options called Audacity. You get similar programs to that, some versions of Ableton.
Audacity's great. I started on Audacity.
Audacity's great for what it is, but it's very limited if you want to go further. For creating your basic ideas, you got Guitar Pro, if you're wanting to tab out some stuff, write it on a piece of paper, so to speak, a virtual piece of paper.
Sorry, quick question. So with the thing like Guitar Pro, that's obviously not a DAW.
Not at all, no.
What would we term that type of software?
It's a notation software. It's great for writing down your ideas on a piece of paper and to give to session musos or to give to your bandmates. It's also a wonderful, really great way of learning songs. So if you want to learn the Lamb of God song or whatever it is, you can find the tablature.
Somewhere has tabbed that
Somebody
out.
somewhere has tabbed it, not always well, but you can get it and you can get that down and get some ideas. It's a wonderful way to, so a lot of people write on that. So if you're not comfortable recording, you could tab it out. And then, software-wise, DAWs, you would look at, if you're wanting paid versions, you start looking at your Abletons, your Pro Tools, Cubase, Logic. I mean, the list goes on. But it opens it up to a really kiff place. From there, depending on how technical you want to get, the ideal is to get some sort of a sound card, an audio interface, as we call them. And they range in price, and it's a piece of hardware, because most of the time our computer's sound card isn't geared for what we're wanting to do. So, I mean, you could get something very small, Focusrite makes stuff, you get M Audio and Presonus, the list goes on. But a simple little interface hardware unit where you plug your guitar in, and that plugs into your computer via USB or Thunderbolt or Firewire, and record onto some form of DAW.
And I think, speaking of interfaces, like for the complete doofus, like myself starting out when I did, I don't feel I'm a doofus anymore, but...
Wait, hang on. Are you inadvertently calling newbies doofuses? No. Wait.
Look, someone...
Reiterate that immediately.
You got to start somewhere.
Yeah. Someone.
I am not a doofus, Pat.
So you say.
This is so you say.
Those of you who've met Nate.
This is unacceptable behavior.
We love you.
So starting out with for me, the DAW was the easy part. But it's like, okay, so how do I make the guitar plug into the DAW, which is a piece of software on a computer? So I found that at that time, and I think nowadays, pretty much all multi-effects units that we would use possibly for live or whatever, I think pretty much all of them or most of them come with a like an interface component, like a USB port.
Yeah,
So-
a lot of your solid state, your old school stuff, not so much, but your solid state and so on.
So for the complete starter auto, like if you have a multi-effects pedal, or if you're considering an investing one, there's a very good start for a two-purpose piece of equipment, but because you're using it to get your effects, but you could also use it as not only your sound card, but also as your sound or like tone generator, I suppose. But I suppose that's where we start talking about VSTs.
Yeah.
Because what we find a lot of people are doing is they take the guitar and they plug it into a more generic interface, as in like generic not being an effects pedal.
Yeah, being an actual audio interface itself. Dedicated
which
for
you can
that.
then plug either a mic or a guitar or a bass or whatever else.
100%.
So if they're not using the option which I used, which is very simple, but it has pretty much everything it needs for very basic recording. You've got your distortion, your reverb, your delays and stuff built into the FX unit as a piece of hardware plugging to your computer. But I'm curious to know, because this is an area I still need to grow in, definitely, is plugins.
Yeah, so the question I always ask when I've faced with a customer or with a query, be it a Nubisol to a pro, is what do you want to do? What is your intention? If you're wanting to keep live cost effective and you're wanting something for live and studio, then you would look at something like an amp that you could use live and then studio, or an effects pedal, etc. If we're talking purely recording and you want to get something going, then you start looking at interfaces with some sort of VST or a profiling thing or something along those lines.
Which we chatted about last week.
Yeah, so if we're talking, let's stick with the VST vibe. What's nice with VSTs is that you can get something either for free or paid. Obviously, you get what you pay for. So if you get something for free, it's not always the greatest, but there are some really, really cool options. And what is great about a VST is that you can pretty much get an amazing tone going for very little money. And quite easily. Yeah. So what a VST is a sort of a, how can I explain it? It's sort of a mini program within your DAW.
Okay.
So it's something that you would download, you buy.
So it's a software solution
it's
for
kinda,
a hardware problem.
Yeah, so the way I would describe it is like if you have your computer, you have, let's say, Windows as your operating system.
Yeah.
You would then have Word and Excel and all of those things. So Word and Excel and so on would be your plugins, if I can simplify it that
it's
way.
an app inside an app.
Essentially, yeah.
Okay.
And so
in more modern terms.
Yeah, your DAW would literally be your recording base. So that is the program that you use to capture it. Then you need to get the sound. So the sound would be your VST. VSTs, as I said before, come in many shapes and forms and can do many different things. Not just guitar. You could get VST drums, MIDI drums. You could get keyboards and synths and all kinds of weird and out there stuff for your pop and crazy musos who do those kind of things.
I suppose it's pretty much infinite.
Absolutely, and they range in quality and price.
Yeah.
What I started off when I was recording basic stuff is I would use the onboard VSTs. A lot of DAWs come with some sort of basic guitar amps, basic bass amps, keyboards and drums. And you can get something going if you can get your head around the program. From there on, I invested a bit more money and I started getting things like Joey Surgeon's. He's got an amazing plugin. It's not too expensive that you can get ToneForge, and you go from there. And you start expanding your VST library to get you different options. VSTs you could look at, you get ones that offer multiple different amps, and then you get ones that offer amps within a series. So if for like your metalheads as such, you could get VSTs geared for that, and you don't have anything that is too clean in your library. So there's a lot of options there.
And tell me, how technically proficient must a person be to get this all up and running?
Not at all, actually. It's quite simple. It requires a little bit of logic and a little bit of patience.
Maybe a little bit of YouTube.
Oh, hell
And
yeah.
quite a lot of YouTube.
Quite a lot of YouTube.
And a lot of bugging Robyn on the phone.
Yeah.
But it's if you have the patience, that's the big thing. A lot of guys want something like that, and it can be a little bit difficult to get your head around. What I'd suggest is literally start with the basics. Take a deep breath and connect
Always a
your
good start.
hardware.
Yeah,
Hardware is your first step. Once you got your hardware, you got your guitar, it's tuned up, and you got your cable right, it's plugged into the right socket on your interface, and your interface is plugged into your computer, and you got your DAW up and running.
Yeah.
And you can take another deep breath.
You can take another deep breath there.
And a sigh of relief.
And a sigh of relief. Then from there, it's to get to know your DAW. Understand where the basics are. Where's your recording button? How do I insert a track?
Yeah,
You know, those very basic things. Once you've got that and you've got some sort of signal going, so you're routing, and that's a word that everybody gets a minor heart attack for when you're a newbie. What on earth are we talking about? Routing. Easiest thing.
Pat's looking like
Pat's
Yeah,
eyes are
yeah,
glazing
yeah,
over
yeah.
here. Routing is the big thing to remember when you're coming to a digital form. I can't talk today, guys.
It's
digital-
quite alright.
A digital platform. There
There
we
we
go.
go. There we go.
Ha! Third
Voila.
time lucky. Is to not be afraid.
Uh-huh.
Is to go, okay, this is just a computer program that is taking what I would do in real life with a cable in my hand and a piece of hardware and putting it in a digital format.
Interface,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you need to think of it in the same way.
That's
If
where you described you need a certain degree of logic.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, okay, cool. I've physically plugged my guitar into the interface and I am recording onto track number 1.
Yeah.
Okay, so now if you're in your DAW, where are we? We're going to go, I have track number 1 routed to input number 1, which is where
Okay.
my guitar is plugged in,
Yeah.
and so on. And then that is your form of logic and the path that you need to follow. From there, it gets technical in terms of the individual VST that you're using. You get tones and all that kind of stuff. Take a breath. It's not that complicated.
Yeah.
Read and go, oh, bass, middle, treb. Ah, I have that on my amp.
Yes.
Does it do the same thing? Let's see.
Yeah.
Yes or no.
Yeah.
And there's this wonderful thing called Control Z.
Oh, hello, yes.
Undo.
Undo.
Thankfully.
So you can't really mess it up too badly.
Yeah. All right, so for the layman, just getting going, like, this is not rocket science. It's just a matter of having the courage to take that step,
Absolutely.
acquire the absolute basics, which shouldn't cost too much money. I mean, one can assume that the layman already has a guitar. They might well already at least have an effects pedal of some sort.
And please go brush up on your fundamentals of using a DAW.
Yeah, and I mean,
yeah.
if you, as you say, most guys will have the basics and they'll have a computer.
Yeah.
If you go into a shop right now and you go, as an example, buy a Focusrite 2i2 or a Solo, that's your audio interface, it will come with some form of DAW.
Okay.
And those DAWs aren't as entry level as Audacity. It would be something like Pro Tools Basic, or Logic,
Which
or
is a good
Cubase.
stepping stone towards like pro
And
stuff.
It is more serious, and
Yeah.
those have semi-decent VSTs to start.
Great.
Cool. So to wrap this up, we got to bring her back because
In for a penny, in for a pound. Eh?
yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, I just find it very interesting because, from my perspective, I know squat. I know a little bit more now than I did before we had a chat with Robyn. But from my perspective, in working with digital audio workstations, I'm going to use the full term. It took me all of 3 months to be able to track my own vocals on a DAW.
Yeah.
And honestly, I felt accomplished afterwards, and getting through all of the basic roughing of getting used to it, it gets easier the more you just apply it.
Oh, yeah.
Just keep
And it's
applying.
rewarding as well.
And it's
Yeah.
rewarding, especially if you want to do home recording and so on.
Like, I think what you said about feeling accomplished, like, I can definitely mirror that, because I remember feeling so chuffed when I had my first demo completed and wrapped up, and I took it to the band and they didn't quite like it. But, but
Story of my
yeah,
life.
Yeah. Like, I think my focus at that time had been too much on the like trying to learn the software rather than writing a song.
Yeah.
But notwithstanding, point being, have the courage to just leap in.
Absolutely. It's not that terrifying. Technology is the future. Go for it. Breathe, read, and lots of YouTube.
Good advice.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Thank you, Robyn, so much for
Always
joining
a
us
pleasure.
again.
Thank you.
And we'll definitely be having you back for some more guitar tech and sound vibes.
Yeah.
Vibes and sound. And now I'm going to do an outro as well. And like
Things and stuff made awesome.
things and stuff, guys. Just more things, more stuff. Please go check out Blended Podcasts on all the social medias. And we are available anywhere podcasts are be able to be heard and listened to and things. And thank you guys. And bye. Coffee time. See you later.
Cheers. Oh. And talk to us. Let us know what you want us to talk about on future episodes.
Yeah, do that. Please.
Ciao.
Thank you so much for listening to us ramble on about all things music and sound here on Sound Vibes, produced with the generous assistance of Blended Podcasts, brought to you by Blended Audio.